All right, to play right into the leading trend among concert goers today, just by a quick show of the light of your cell phone. If you could please raise your hand if you or a member of your team, for yourself or your client, are currently working on a deck, a plan for next year that somehow includes a strategy to inspire that hopeful, optimistic crowd of citizens we call millennials to action next year for your brands. Give me a little show. No cell phones though, huh? Now keep your hand up if you actually are a millennial yourself. All right. So I would encourage you all to find the 3 that held their hands up to maybe consult for your plans. I do believe I get some sort of an award here for being the first today to usher the word millennial on this stage, and it was a hot topic yesterday. And I wanted to actually call out that I did appreciate some of the Twitter sentiment that was flowing through the feed yesterday. For all of us to use a bit of caution here, we are running the risk of using or falling into that common trap sometimes we find ourselves in, using vague generalities to talk about such a critical target audience. But as Paul said in his opening remarks yesterday, this convergence, this collision between millennials and their social prowess really is this game-changing equation for corporations, their brands, all of our clients, and certainly our talent at the agency level as well. Now, yesterday we talked about the power of real time with David, and Stephanie's panel led us on a great path on how to use and weave in comedic wit in our content strategies. We, of course, all were enlightened by Jane's fascinating discussion about play and gamification, and that juicy little nugget that 75% of these millennials are inspired to publish their own book. We're going to pick up that baton in this session and explore the power of music. I'd be willing to bet that most, if not all, of those 500 or so kids with Jane in the library that night, in addition to their shared love of laughter and play and books, also had another shared love that powered them through the night as they accomplished their big mission, and that was the beats in their headphones. So music has obviously been a part of the branded entertainment landscape for quite some time. In fact, Paul Whiteman, when he led his opening night orchestra for the Kraft Music Hall some 80 years ago, really ushered in this integration between the power of music and branded content. Next year, by a couple forecasts, it's expected that brands are going to spend somewhere near $2 billion on just music festival sponsorships alone. Retailers, as one example, Restoration Hardware, aggressively pursuing with launching their own music label, turning their retail footprint into live music venues. Chipotle rocked it out at Cannes this year, winning the PR Lion with their infamous Scarecrow spot, which prominently featured a Fiona Apple remake of that 1971 hit Pure Imagination. We all got a nice big warm kiss and a hug from Bono about 3 weeks ago for delicately slipping those tunes onto our library. And tonight, either in Kansas City or San Francisco, either Lorde or Steve Perry is going to usher in a nice little anthem to celebrate a World Series victory. Music, indeed, intersects all of what we do for our clients and our brands. Now, you don't need me to stand up here and tell you that these millennials are the most socially connected, digital savvy citizens we've ever seen. But what I didn't realize until I met with a team at Columbia a few months ago as we were working on some programs is a couple pretty eye-popping stats. 10 of the top 20 Facebook pages are owned by artists. 8 of the top 10 Twitter handles, also musicians. 8 of the top 10 YouTube channels, 7 of the top 15 network television broadcasts are currently music-related. So in a moment, I'm going to invite my good friend Elliot up to take us on a tour of millennials and their music, and then his colleague Tony Wallace will join us for a little dialogue about the intersection between music, brands, and this important target. But before we do that, I just want to put into proper context the power, global reach, and the significance of what really is truly the most prestigious record label on the planet.
She's up all night to the sun. I'm up all night to get some. She's up all night for good fun. I'm up all night to get lucky. We're up all night to the sun. We're up all night to get some. We're up all night for good fun. We're up all night to get lucky. We're up all night to get lucky. We're up all night to get lucky. Story of my life, I'll take her home. I drive all night to keep her warm in time. It's frozen. The story of my life, I give her hope. I spend her love. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you.
So I have the daunting task of following Pharrell, Beyonce, and of course One Direction. Any favorite artists there for you guys? Some nods. Billy Joel? Pharrell? Great. Well, we're fortunate at Columbia Records to actually represent about 100+ artists. And we want to first thank Chris and Citizen for inviting us here to talk to you a little bit about millennials and their music. So millennials we'll define broadly as 18 to 34. And we basically did a pretty comprehensive study, 30,000 consumers in the US, that we've actually replicated in other countries as well. Brazil, China. It actually started out in the UK. So before kind of getting into it, I wanted to ask you guys the question, in terms of the amount of music that you guys listen to on a daily basis, just a show of hands, how many listen to music maybe less than an hour a day? A couple of you? Okay. How about 1 to 4 hours? Great. 4 to 8? Excellent. Anybody 8+? Okay. Well, actually, you know what? In our study, the first slide that I have right here is, this is the number of hours per week that the US population, again, 30,000 people, and then we sort of segmented into millennials as well, listen to music per week. So on average, 7 hours per week, or I'm sorry, 7 hours per day. And then for millennials, about 9 hours per day. So the consumption of music is incredibly something that Americans, and we also sort of see this globally, sort of love. And music consumption defined as broadly listening to music, so you can think about radio, listening into the car, listening in your office, as well as online. So music video consumption, if you're listening to music on like a Vivo, YouTube, or for instance, an MTV. So the way that we sort of structured our study is in the following way, is we think about music as from an attitude standpoint. So I'd ask you guys to think about which category you guys fall into, because we think that there's a business opportunity as you guys are talking to millennials. The first is, are you a fanatic? So fanatics, you can see this guy at the top of the stage ready to jump off. Music is central to this person's life. This is the one thing that they care about above everything else, okay? Anybody an AC/DC fan here? Awesome. You know the album's coming out December 2nd, Rock or Bust? Yes, we are ready. Are you this kind of fan, though? Put a logo on a horse and ready to go. We actually launched a campaign for their Black Ice tour last time around Show Me Your AC/DC. And the folks that showed them your AC/DC actually got to go to a concert before the album actually came out. So this was part of that campaign. But this is what a fanatic loves to do. So the second category is, are you an enthusiast? Enthusiast is much more one of 3 or 4 things that that person cares about. Music is definitely central to their life. They like hanging out with their friends. They like being at festivals. They like film and TV. They like sports or drinking. So you can sort of see that person as music is, again, central, but not the top. It kind of competes with other things they care about. The next one is sort of casual, right? So casual we call part of the mainstream audience. And this is somebody who Times Square, where you think about, the best example I like to give is sort of a fitness consumer or somebody who loves fitness that uses music to power their workouts. Fitness is something that they absolutely care about, and music enhances that experience, but music isn't sort of central to their lives like a fanatic, okay? And the last one is indifferent. Indifferent, unfortunately, as you sort of see the shift of physical to digital, this, unfortunately, is what our aisle looks like at Walmart in many occasions, except when AC/DC comes out. And it's somebody who just literally doesn't pay any attention to music at all. Maybe buys like one CD, one single a year, and everything else is sort of more important to them. Music sort of falls at the bottom. So let me just ask you guys the question. How many of you guys are fanatics, would you say? Handful. Enthusiast? Much more? Great. Casual? Awesome. Indifferent? Handful. Okay. I'm sorry. I hope this is interesting to you. So I will do my best to make it, because I got some videos, I got some more stats. So let me ask you then the question too. What percentage of the population, if you sort of took a sort of scan of the crowd there, is a fanatic? Anybody have any guesses? 5, 3 I heard? 10? 11? 11%. Right on the money. So listen, I have actually going to this Calvin Harris event in Puerto Rico, and the album's actually coming out on Tuesday. I actually have a pre-release copy, so I'll give that to you because you got that right on the money. So if you want that. And I'm excited about this Calvin. I've been in the music business for about 5 years. My background before was at Colgate. I'm excited about this event. Actually, it's put on by Citizen, so we're really, Calvin's part of it. Kendrick Lamar, Ellie Goulding. It's going to be an incredible time. So thank you, guys. Let me ask you then now the question. Okay, you got 11%. What percentage of the population who are millennials do you think are fanatic? 14? 40, 32. 25. Okay. All of you guys are in that range. It's actually about 19%. 33% are enthusiasts. Surprised. And I think, we'll get into sort of like what this is, because this is an attitudinal study we did. It was, 4 or 5 different questions that they had to sort of ask, or they had to answer to be able to be clustered into one of these categories. So if you say you're a fanatic in music, we'll get into what that actually means. What I will say is that for the general population, 35% of the population actually generates about 68% of our spend. So from a music standpoint, that's who we actually care about, okay? So we think there's a business opportunity. 50% of fanatics are enthusiasts. 50% of millennials are fanatics and enthusiasts. So what I'm going to kind of get into now is literally the rest of the presentation or discussion really is just 6 principles. Okay, there'll be some video, there'll be hopefully some funny moments, and we'll just kind of go through it, and we'll come up and ask questions at the end. So the key principle number 1 of how to talk to millennials is this idea of discovery, right? That powers word of mouth. You guys are in the business of word of mouth, and sort of what drives that is the idea of discovery. You find whether it's sort of like fashion, new food, a cool computer, a new app, what do? You actually tell somebody, right? In music, that is the foundation or the bedrock of how music is sort of circulated around. Whether that's a new song, whether that's a new artist, whether that's a Beyonce releasing her album, whether it's U2 doing what they did with Apple, it's sort of all about, I heard about that, let me tell somebody else. And when you think about that framework of fanatics through indifference, the fanatics are the ones, when you look at the data from our study, are the ones that 100% of the time when they find something that they like, or even that they don't like, they actually share it with somebody else. That is their social currency of actually communicating with their crowd and creating sort of that badge of honor of saying, I discovered this first. And how do they discover it? And how do they share it? Most of them share it socially, whether that's Facebook or Twitter. And we have the numbers to break it down, but this is sort of giving you it at a macro level, okay? So when we also did some consumer testimonials here, we interviewed Talia, Sherilyn. Talia, I definitely discover new music on a more consistent basis than my friend. Chamberlin, when I like a song, I'll tell everyone and their mama. When I don't like a song, I'll tell everyone and their mama. So people will share whether or not they like or don't like, because it is a passion point for them, okay? The second principle that we have is investing in an artist is investing in the lifestyle of the artist. Often when you think about music, you might think about just the artist. You might think about just the song. You might think about, hopefully, the way that we try to think about it is, I was trying to think about another dimension there, which I couldn't, but you got to think about it from an entire package standpoint, okay? Is that these millennials think about artists not in a very sort of one-dimensional way, but in a very multi-dimensional way. So what I'd like to do is, I'm going to show you a video in a second. The way that we sort of structured this video is we have our label product managers talking about how they talk to millennials, and we actually have a group of millennials who actually talk about how they consume music. So why don't we roll the tape?
For a group like Odd Future, they are fans of them, of the people. The music, yeah, but they really look to the group as kind of like leaders in a movement. And I think sometimes that's what you have, like they just want any piece of them. But the challenge with that is they'll download the music for free, but they'll buy tickets, merch, etc., because they want some ownership. So with them, our challenge has been, in order to reach these fans, we have to bundle the music with other elements that they can't get elsewhere.
For me, a lot of like going to see an artist is really how much I love that artist. And, like I'm willing to drop money to go see them in person so I can have that kind of experience. Sometimes before I'm willing to maybe buy their CD, I'll just get their singles perhaps and buy their full album. Like if I'm gonna go see them live perform and like have that exchange, I'll pay like $50 to do that, or I'll pay $75 to go see Kanye West and Yeezus, which I missed out on unfortunately. But I wanted to do that because I was like, okay, Kanye, once again, I need to see Yeezus, I gotta go do that. So just because that album was so major to me. So I think for me, going to see an artist live is about that personal connection that I have to them. And I followed Kanye West since like I was 12. So like that to me is like, oh, I've grown up with him. I gotta go see him.
I think what the artists now have gotten really smart at, what we help them do is build their own tribe. So for instance, Corella, as they were coming up in the EDM world and you started off at the club level playing for a few hundred people, then to a few thousand larger venues, to playing to 20, 30,000 people at a festival, I think along the way we've also made sure that we identify them as, an artist, not just the experience of being at the club.
I'm the mouthpiece for, like when Jay-Z and Kanye West came out with the Watch the Throne tour and I went to the Meadowlands with my friends. That was like a $200 ticket, and I don't have $200 either, but I found $200 to make sure I got to go to the concert because, that's important.
Once you get them to buy into something, and invest in that artist, they latch on and they stick with it.
I think we're all a little bit fascinated about the millennial crowd and how they move and how they think. And I think that what surprises me about them, we tend to kind of think of them as passive. They're not. They actually are super engaged, but they have to really be rallied to a cause.
So the word I always sort of hone in when you look at that video is the word tribe. That's essentially what we try to do from a music standpoint, is build that tribe so that that word of mouth starts to amplify. So whether it's Corella, a new artist, if it's a Beyonce who has 60 million Facebook fans, that's like we're continually trying to create art and create experience that latches that fan onto that particular artist, okay? The next principle that we have is just authenticity. And I know this has sort of been a term that's been bandied around, and music is critically important. The reason why it's critically important is because the person that actually is connecting with that fan is a real person. So these millennials can really sort of like sniff out inauthenticity, and the bar is very high in music. So similar sort of structure, we're gonna just play you a quick video that illustrates this point.
This is a market of consumers, unlike any other I've ever seen, where they know what's contrived. They know if the tweet is sponsored. They know if it's not the artist, especially if you have a situation where an artist has been using their authentic voice from the beginning. one thing about millennials as music fans is that they feel they have an access to these artists that I don't think any other group has ever been accustomed to having to artists. They feel like they know them, they feel like they know their personalities, they feel like they know their lives and their stories, and they come to expect that. So that being said, if they've become accustomed to an artist's voice, and all of a sudden that voice changes, they feel it.
The authenticity comes from seeing the person. I know it sounds overly simplistic, but actually seeing the person in front of you. I mean, these are artists who, you know, like Kanye West, who you only see him in the tabloids, you only see him on TV, and it's somewhere else, you know, whether he's in Paris or LA, and you kind of feel like, well, that's a different world. But to see him like 100 feet from you, and to see the energy that he puts into his music, and to see him, you know, sweating on stage and jumping around, and this is a guy who performs that song every city he goes in, and that he has that much energy for me, for the audience that he's, I mean, that's incredible, because that shows that it's not just a manufactured image for the media, but Kanye really lives through his music.
You don't want to be too salesy, you don't want to be overly enthusiastic, you don't want to be, you know, too vague. You want to find that right medium of being able to sell something, showing your personality, posting at the right time, posting, you know, images of yourself, or, you know, showing that you're a band out playing shows, you're at Glastonbury, you're tweeting what the crowd looks like. I think that's all really important stuff.
I like following the artists who you can tell it's the artist that's tweeting. I like when they have like weekly videos that they post or something of them documenting their tour or whatever. Going back to country, I'm a huge Luke Bryan fan, and he does like weekly videos of like him and his crew, and I think some of them are hilarious, the stuff that they do, and it kind of makes you feel a stronger connection with the artist as opposed to just listening to their music. You kind of get the feeling that you know them.
So to illustrate the concept of authenticity for us is that we often manage our artists' social media accounts, but some of them decide to manage their own. So I don't know if there's any J. Cole fans out here, but J. Cole, for instance, manages his own Twitter feed. He's got 4 million fans on Twitter, and he only has 2 million on Facebook. Why? Because the label actually just posts for casual updates on Facebook, and he's the one that actually delivers his own messaging on Twitter. So the hardcore fans know actually that they can get access to him through that particular channel, okay? The next principle is understand what music language you need to use. So this kind of gets back to the concept of fanatic, enthusiast, casual, and indifferent. So we're going to meet two consumers right now in the ethnographies that we did. One is Tess. Tess is from New York City. You can see some of the artists that she listens to, whether it be Green Day, Demi Lovato, David Bowie, Avril Lavigne. She has a lot of Facebook followers, Twitter followers, and she's an influencer in music. I think to illustrate this point is that you could say that has a pretty eclectic taste in music. And this is what she listens to on one day. So you can see, as you sort of are on the top side, is start time, what she's listening to, source, the actual artists that she cares about, location, and the number of times spent listening to music. So for instance, at 8 o'clock, she's in her friend's car, and this was done maybe about a year and a half ago, listening to the new Green Day album. In the morning, you can see that she's trying to get herself ready to be able to go out for her day, okay? So lots of active, and I think the key underlying point here is that she knows exactly what she wants, right? It's much more of a pull listening kind of experience. And so when you actually ask her about her attitudes towards music listening, right? I'm actively involved in the music scene. I know more about music than most people I know. Music is central to my life. Top 2 box, right? Agree or strongly agree. So I want you to compare Tess with Elizabeth. Same age, same sort of metro area. She lives in New Jersey. Her influence around music, you can see her quote there. I'm also an influencer in my social circle. Her kind of tastes are a little bit different. You can see it's a little bit more pop. Usher, Justin Timberlake, Rihanna, will.i.am. So she's probably listening to pop radio. You could say that, on the surface, they're pretty similar in terms of maybe, they might have some overlap in music tastes, but they both are influencers. You can see how she actually gets her music, right? So in the morning, she's on Z100, if you guys, any of you in New York City. When she's coming back home, she's listening to iTunes and the new One Republic album. But her experience is much more, it's not just like she knows exactly what she wants to get pushed the music. So here's the key point, right, is that when you actually look at the attitudes towards music listening, they're actually different. Even though maybe on the surface they seem the same, okay? You might be a self-proclaimed fanatic, but if you actually ask certain questions, you can see that the only thing that they agree with is that I know more about music than most people I know. Elizabeth, for instance, disagrees with some of the statements there as neutral. So what you can see is, and this is our segmentation grid. This is our map that we've created. On the top-hand side is fanatics, enthusiasts, casuals, and indifferents. And on the y-axis, it's age. Okay? So just to kind of bring it out a little bit more, we sort of named these different psychographic segments. There's one called God's Grits and Garth. There's another one called Earth, Wind, and Retired. Growing up, par forefathers. Sure, there's a lot there. And where Tess sort of falls is an indie innovator, okay? And Elizabeth is more of a Cosmo cutie. So Elizabeth is, again, much more of a casual consumer, whereas like Tess is much more of a fanatic. And the reason, the principle there is like, how do you actually talk to them differently based on what language they're speaking? They're different languages. And the way that you might reach a fanatic is going to be different than the way that you actually reach a casual. And the reason why we created this segmentation grid is that we have artists from One Direction to Tony Bennett. So as a result, this is a map for us to be able to inform decisions about how to actually talk to these consumers. Okay? So here's just we've actually created a segment profile. Indie innovators, they're 18 to 21. You can get a sense of their hobbies, their ethnicity, their population, artists that they like. Cosmo cuties, they're social butterflies, 100% female, ages 18 to 25. And you can see for us, like, in our study, what kind of sources of music that they go to, how much they spend in music, where they actually buy music, and the brands that they actually consume. So think about the study almost like as a Simmons study with an MRI, or MRI study with music as a lens. Okay? This is just to give you some visual flavor for the data. We are not, as a label, very sort of data intensive, so we had to create a little visual guide to kind of bring out the power of what that has to do, of the data, because we think there's some powerful pieces there. So only 2 more principles, and then this is really quick, and then we have another video to share. The 5th principle that we say is define strategy before picking artists. Right? A lot of people like to go to a particular artist. Hey, we want to align with this particular artist, but what's ultimately, it often is an emotional driver versus a business driver. And we're sort of articulating the point that how does music actually drive your business? So a very simple diagnostic, right? What are your business objectives? How does your brand strategy feed into your business objectives? And how does your music strategy feed into your brand strategy? Okay? And, Taco Bell is a great example. Taco Bell's sort of brand promise is Live Más. I'm sure if you have a client, you know the brand promise a lot more than I do. But it's about exploration, it's about discovery. Their program, Feed the Beat, sort of enlists artists from unsigned artists to signed artists, that we have a couple of artists that are part of it, which essentially we give them $500 gift cards to go out when they're actually out on tour, to go and dine at Taco Bell. And often you create sort of that relationship with that artist where they actually are willing to then spread Taco Bell social love with their particular fans. So it's a very sort of entry-level way to be able to engage with artists and start that relationship early on in the process. So what we sort of developed was, again, it's not quantitative, it's much more sort of, because we talked to a lot of different brands about this, is sort of just a simple diagnostic, right? In terms of, if you sort of go back to that first principle of intensity of music discovery is the key. You go from high to low, and you sort of plot different kinds of strategies here. Strategy being new artist discovery. Taco Bell is in that category. Abercrombie & Fitch has a music supervisor that literally hands the CEO every single week a playlist to actually be played in the stores, because they think of their stores as advertisements to their consumer. So that's the intensity that they put onto music. Okay? Cultural relevance is probably more like the Pepsis and Cokes of the world. enablement is like the Samsung Jay-Z deal. They don't, when we talk to them, they don't think about that deal as a music deal. They thought about that as a kind of never been done before deal. And it happened to have the biggest artists in the world being a part of it. So, simple diagnostic. The last sort of principle that we sort of have here is just have fun. And music is fun. Artists are fun. And sometimes that gets lost in the contract process. I think what we love to do is put artists in front of, prospective agencies and brands that actually talk about those shared objectives. And we did that recently with T.I. and Foot Action and Conan Wolf, where we basically created a prank where I will actually let them roll the tape, but T.I. right here he has a business or a apparel line called Hustle Gang in Foot Action. So he's looking to actually promote his apparel line, but also happens to promote his music at the same time because his album Paperwork just recently came out last week. So we actually put together this sort of viral video. I think it's been out for about a week. It's got about 1 million views that we wanted to just share with you right here. It's about 5 minutes, and then we'll sort of conclude.
I'm here at Foot Action to get styled by T.I.
I'm here today being styled by T.I.
I'm getting styled by T.I.
I'm here at Foot Action to be styled by T.I.
My name is Nick, and I'm here because T.I. is going to be styling me.
What's up, man?
What's going on, partner?
Am I in your way?
Actually, you are.
Okay, all right. Well, let me back up out your close-up, man. I'ma just be over here getting fresh, man. We got you here, man, trying to get you ready for the winter, man. What's your style?
Not too out there, but something that's flavorful,
These are the brand new joints.
Okay.
Here, man, get them these right here. You got some purple LeBrons?
There we go. Get these. We get them all, man.
Wait, we can get all of it?
This look good on your complexion, right?
Man, come on.
These are your shoes?
Yeah, these.
They smell, man. Damn.
Hey, can I get the spray? Can I get the spray?
There we go.
Y'all wrong.
That's better, that's better.
That already smells better. This is the most important section of the whole store right here. This is the Hustle Gang section. We call this Hustler's Paradise. I designed this one myself.
Ooh, Hustle Gang.
Hustle Gang.
That's what I need right there.
Hustle Gang, homie.
Yeah, I think I might definitely need this.
Yeah, I'm digging that. There you go, man.
Right.
Only thing better than one Chiefs is two Chiefs. Here, don't worry about it. You grow into it. Hey, get the man one of each. Come on, man.
Go great with the album, October 21st, baby.
Wouldn't it now?
This shirt goes with your complexion right here. Look
Hey,
at
man,
this.
what's up with the complexion, man? Man, everybody got to get a lid, man. You know what I'm saying? Top the swag off. This says Brooklyn. What part you from?
I'm from Queens.
You from Queens? You want to put that back there.
These are the backwards hats. Now, these are just hats you have to wear backwards, basically.
Okay.
Check me out. Does it look right?
Nah.
You gotta throw it like this.
You swagging, I'm talking about. Straight out the bag.
Yeah, those colors go with your eyes right there. Like.
Hey, man, listen, man. Now, listen. I'm going to have to, man, remove you, man.
We'll take this, too. We'll take this, too.
This is a good section over here, man, because, when you got your Hustle Gang stuff is in the cleaners, you can always throw on a little Nike.
Throw this
Not on the
on.
hood, man. What are you doing?
What about this mannequin? You like this look?
You dig it?
Yeah.
Take the mannequin. Come on. You drive or you on the...
Nah, I took the train
You
today.
took the train? Mannequin going with you. Call the man in the cab.
You got a big enough closet for all this stuff?
Yeah, man, I'm good. I got the walk-in.
You got the walk-in
Hello?
closet? All right, man. Dang.
Say what? Nah, I'm over here for that shit. Nah, I'm in New York. What? Hold up. What you say?
Was that, he just took a phone call or what?
Yeah, guys, let's cut it for 2 seconds. We'll be right back. Just stay tight over here.
Hang out for a second.
No problem, no problem.
I'm gonna go check on him. I'll be right back.
You find everything all right?
Yeah. Just getting back on the train gonna be crazy with all that.
Total's gonna be $10,467.37.
Okay.
So, cash or credit?
I don't know.
Cash or credit?
From me?
You want cash or credit?
Huh?
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to wait for T.I. to come back in.
For who?
No, I'm here with the lady.
Sorry?
Here with the lady.
What lady?
I don't know her name.
I'm the one being styled today.
What do you mean?
I'm actually paying.
Huh?
I'm actually paying.
That's usually how it works, right? Are you
Yeah.
joking?
Can I just jump ahead and pay for this or no?
No, because this is the only register that's working actually, and we can't.
Aw, man.
Yeah, sorry, man.
I have an hour lunch break. You need to hurry up.
I just got one thing to pay for. Can we just speed it? Is there anything you can do to speed it up?
Pay for your stuff.
Can you throw my hat in there, please? Can you just like toss my hat in there?
They told me I was gonna be styled by T.I., that I just needed to get my stuff in.
I don't understand. That's so much stuff, though.
Yo, what's up, man?
What's going on, boss?
There's an emergency with T.I., so if you could just pay for this, we can get out of here. With what? With what? What's wrong?
I mean, I want to laugh with you too.
Whoa, 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 what's going on, man? Everybody back up. Why is everybody so egregious?
They're trying to ask me to pay for all the stuff.
Man, where the lady at? The lady said...
He said something about a lady too. I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah,
There was a lady?
Yeah, the lady, man. She left me, man. I won the contest. So.
You did. You won the contest that got you styled by T.I. My services for styling came for free. I paid my way up here. I'm talking about my hotel and everything. I didn't charge you for nothing of that. You think my swag just come cheap? I'm gonna show you what to wear, but you have to pay.
So all this stuff needs to get paid for, so.
Okay, well. So, see, what my man don't know is that he's being hustled. Everybody's in on it.
Everybody?
Everybody's in on it.
He scared me, man.
Y'all have me bugging.
Appreciate it, all right, man?
I didn't know what was gonna happen just now.
I got hustled, man.
He wanted to tell you what he felt about your ensemble, though.
It really matches your complexion.
Heard some chuckles there. I think the reality is that's something that artists love to do, is that they like to be creative. I mean, that's their field. And they want to do these kinds of collaborations that bring them out in a different light. And T.I. is somebody who is obviously a music star. He has his own show on VH1. He also is going to be playing in movies. But this kind of brings out the lighter side of him, and in terms of like his personality and just how spontaneous he actually can be. So we're always looking for those opportunities for our artists, and I guess that was really the reason why we sort of did this, and we thank Chris to maybe coming up here is at the end of the day, we're looking for those kinds of collaboration opportunities, and we know that artists can create some of those viral moments, as you saw here. So thank you very much for listening and creating the opportunity for us.
So we got about 7.5 minutes here just for a little dialogue. Tony, just since you're a fresh face on the stage, want to just give a quick introduction. Sure. Maybe just first question, if you could, just real quickly, talk a little bit about how your internal agency is structured and how you intersect with brand building agencies and marketers.
Sure, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Good to see you. So I'm the Senior Director of Strategic Marketing at the creative agency at Columbia Records. I manage all brand partnerships for the West Coast. Elliot works on the East Coast. At the creative agency, we are actually a little bit different than most of the other labels. About 2 years ago, we built the agency to actually bring together a couple of different departments that traditionally worked a little bit more siloed. So one was the brand partnerships team, which is strategic marketing. The other piece is licensing, so we actually put those together, and then we do all the new business development work, which you're seeing from the research, but also content development. So we're getting into the original IP space in a big way.
Great. Start from the crowd here. Any questions right off the top?
I've got a question, actually, if I could start. Sorry. You mentioned you'd like to invest not just in your artists, but in the lifestyle of your artists. And doesn't that bring certain risks when, for example, you have, say Rick Ross writing a song about date rape, so forth?
Do you want to take that?
Sure. I think that a lot of the artists, you really just have to be open to working with them and vice versa. It has to be a great fit. There's always going to be a level of risk in anything that we do in business, and I think you just have to realize that. But also with great risk comes great reward. And I think in particular, as creative communities and storytellers, which we all are, artists have a unique way of cutting through, and that's going to come through in the risks that they take and in the risks that their partners take.
Okay. I guess I'll hand up here.
Can you hear me? Yes, sorry. I just wondered, I'm old enough to remember records that used to get banned, like being British, God Save the Queen because it referred to a fascist regime, and many other banned records. I just wondered, are there any group of millennials out there that reject the Columbia Records view of the world and also reject the capitalization of music? In other words, that music is for commercial ends and we're here sitting talking about how we can use it for brands. Are there millennials out there that reject that whole vision altogether?
Sure. So, so we're fortunate at Columbia, like our chairman, Rob Stringer, we're known as a very sort of like artist-friendly label. So you have like career artists who've been with us, like the Barbra Streisands, who sort of had her 6th consecutive #1 album. And I think when you actually it's a very sort of delicate balance between art and commerce. We've actually sort of invested in things just to sort of make sure that those artists actually can achieve certain kinds of accolades. But for the younger artists, like whether it be sort of Odd Future and Tyler, the Creator, or another artist that we have, Rory, Columbia will sort of always take a back seat to whatever the vision the artist wants. And if they want an association with Columbia, great. If they don't, that's okay too, because we are in the business of promoting incredible art. Whether you see it from an Adele standpoint, whether you see it from a Pharrell who sort of signed with us because Daft Punk actually had a great experience with us, who then T.I. So we've almost created sort of a salon sort of like feel for the artists to feel comfortable with us and not necessarily feel commercialized and quote unquote selling out. Because we sort of still do believe in the idea of, album art.
Other question out there? The session led off yesterday and throughout, we've had a bit of discussion about conscious capitalism, CSR. Maybe if you guys could just talk a little bit about that intersection point with millennials from a cause activation point, which is, I think, a shared desire with some of the artists as well.
Sure. I think, artists are people, and at the end of the day, sometimes people forget that. They're in the limelight a lot, but causes are very important to them. It helps actually keep them grounded in a lot of ways, which is really important, but also they want to give back. They're in a position to do that. And I think that a lot of the artists that we have, most of them are tied to a cause in a meaningful way, whether that's their own cause or whether that's them being part of a larger initiative. And often, a lot of the times, we try to tie those together with brand partners as well. I know Elliot has a great example with Lady Gaga, if you want to go into that, since you were part of that discussion. I love this example personally because I think it actually outlines what is under the current, that unless you're actually talking as a creative team with the brand, the agency, the label, and the artist, you wouldn't necessarily uncover that these causes might be aligned together.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know if you remember when Virgin Mobile sponsored the Lady Gaga tour a couple of years ago, and Lady Gaga sort of had this real focus on teenage sort of gay rights, and then Virgin Mobile is focused on sort of homelessness. And those two don't necessarily sort of intersect, but when Gaga sat down with Ron Farris, who was the head of marketing at Virgin Mobile, they sort of uncovered that one of the top leading causes of homelessness for teens is the fact that they're struggling with their sexuality. So that sort of like connection made it much more authentic once they sort of made that alignment, so that they could then say, okay, how do we sort of raise and create awareness throughout the tour for a cause that both Virgin Mobile and Lady Gaga care about.
We've got time for just one question.
Yeah, another one. At what cost? Because it's certainly in my experience, the tag has been enormous to get engaged with some of these artists. And in the PR world in particular, we work with not just diminishing budgets, but smaller parts in different pieces of the food chain. So if agencies with brand agency of record relationships are struggling, it's hard for us to even contemplate picking up the phone to talk to you.
I think, so that's a fair point. What you realize that in the fundamental point I'll make in that piece is that every artist is a small business, right? And every artist has a different manager. So different artists and different managers will respond to different things. From a label, what I will say on the higher level standpoint is that the label, which looks to promote artists, and brands sort of would have the same sort of incentives from a promotional standpoint. So the TI piece that you saw there was actually done without sort of a quote-unquote talent fee, right? Because the incentives were aligned. So really, Foot Action was able to place most of their dollars into production and from a promotional standpoint because it benefited them and it benefited Tip. That might not be the case for all artists, but I think what we look to do is create those win-win scenarios in an efficient way where, the brand wins, the artist wins, and the label wins, because we actually got to sell music and we got TI out in a different way. So we try to be as efficient as possible.
Well, great. Thanks, Elliot and Tony. Appreciate you coming and sharing your insights, and thank you all for the great questions.
Thanks, Chris.